passion for at the time. Took a leave of absence, went back to graduate school, student finance, industrial management. After finishing that, I went to the East Coast, Washington, D.C. I worked for a large international management consulting firm doing soft technical consulting. And by that, I mean feasibility studies, strategic planning, organizational studies for clients, ranging anywhere from, at the time, it was getting oil out of Bakersfield, dealing with steam flood and various heavy industry crew. We worked in organizational programs, plus revising their flood feasibility and their flood patterns. I co-authored with the Department of Energy's first two strategic plan reports, one for the strategic assessment of enhanced oil recoveries, as well as enhanced gas recovery. And we did that in the late 70s. Now, I want to talk about the enhanced gas recovery just for an instance. I'm not here to try to tell you how great I am. I'm trying to just give you a thumbnail sketch of what a typical engineering career could look like. On the enhanced gas recovery, what was interesting about it, we identified it was a resource-based study. Now, this was done in the late 70s. There were 4 resources that we identified as potential for a tremendous improvement in recovering natural gas. Now, a lot of you guys weren't even born at this time, but back in the late 70s, there was something called it was a Natural Gas Policy Act, and we were facing, this was under President Carter, we were facing a potential future in this country with a 20-year reserve life for natural gas. So the Department of Energy immediately instituted a number of studies and requests to try to go out and find resource bases that could be developed for natural gas. We identified methane drainage from coal seams. We all know about coal bed methane now. We identified hydraulic fracturing improvements and efficiencies and much more activity in the tight gas sands in the western U.S., southwest Wyoming, western Colorado, all throughout. We identified gas that's accumulated up against geopressure aquifers down the Gulf Coast. And then one of the other ones, the last one that we identified was the Devonian shales in West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, i.e. the Marcellus Shale. We're not saying we were right. It's just that these resources had the potential for hydrocarbon recovery. And now, the important thing to take away from this isn't necessarily my involvement, is that the industry responded, and we found tremendous deposits of natural gas as a result of hydraulic fracturing and tight sands, of the development of the Marcellus Shale within the Devonian structure, and as well as methane drainage, coal bed methane. So the industry always responds. After doing that for a couple of years, I was destined for New York City or Houston. I decided to come back to Wyoming. My wife's from Cheyenne, Wyoming. I went to school there. I mean, I grew up in western South Dakota originally. So I took a job with a very well-known independent out of Casper, Wyoming. It's the True family, True Companies. They're a billion-dollar entity, and I had a great learning environment there. We didn't have the luxury of having production engineering, drilling engineering, reservoir engineering, process engineering type of departments. That's one of the benefits of working for a smaller, stable, solvent, small, company. And I'm nothing against the majors. They're great teaching grounds and they're great career builders. But I had an opportunity to do all of those functions, all the way from going on negotiated leases with the landowner to testifying before oil and gas commissions on disputed issues, to working with our tax department on extensive tax filings, working just writing procedures to drill wells, writing procedures to complete wells, workovers. So it's a very enriching, very strong learning environment. After that, 27 and a half years, that put me in like 2007. I decided that I wanted to roll the dice. So I resigned and I took an opportunity to run a brand new startup oil and gas small company. We had very limited funding. Now this was, when I made this move, it was June of 07. Just to give you a little bit of price history here. Oil was maybe high 40s, low 50s, mid 50s. A year later, oil was $150 a barrel. I thought I had slayed the dragon. Okay? And you'd sit here and think, yeah, millions, they were going to pour in. Well, we all know what, I think most of you guys are old enough to understand what happened then. We had a big financial crisis that started in '09. We lost our funding. We were all privately funded. And the company, in essence, became defunct. So then I had to shift gears, and I consulted for a year. For 2009, I worked in Southwest Ontario. Southwest Ontario is a very, very vast natural gas storage area because of these pinnacle reef deposits they have that are very shallow. It's a major trading hub called Dawn, just east of Detroit, Canada. I did a bunch of consulting up there, which is more reservoir oriented. And at the end of '09, I just happened to be at lunch in Denver, and a couple friends of mine introduced me to another gentleman. And I was kind of tired of traveling up to Canada. So I took an opportunity to become Rocky Mountain Operations Manager for a large operations consulting firm, drilling consultants, completion consultants, facilities consultants, project management type people, what is called CRA engineer. I did that for about 3 years. I was driving 80, 85, 90,000 miles a year, which is a lot of driving. I live in Casper. I was spending my time primarily in Denver. Yes, I've been married for an eternity too. How my wife's dead, we have no nothing. 85,000 miles is a lot of driving between Williston and Salt Lake and Casper, Denver, and Farmington, all over. But it was very rewarding side of the business. I had been a consultant. I had hired consultants. I had fired consultants. And now I'm in a company that is basically focused on consultants and placing them in positions that are beneficial to operators. The industry evolved at the point from being primarily employee-based and employee controlled to utilizing third-party contractors. Did that for almost 3 years. I was at a golf tournament playing golf with Weatherford. And we all know, I imagine you all know who Weatherford is. I'm not going to sales pitch on Weatherford at all. I used them for 20 years when I was at the True Companies, Casper. And so we're just playing around in golf, and one thing led to another. They said, "Why don't you come work for us?" And I said, and my exact quote was, "Do what?" I've never worked for a service company. Now you can argue that the consulting business is a service business, but it really wasn't. And so I decided, well, I'm not. What do you want me to do? Well, just come work. Someone with your background and the varied experiences you've had, you can certainly be valuable to us. So I went to work for them at the end of 12. Now I only travel primarily between Casper and Denver. I spend probably 40% of my time in the Denver office and the other 60% in Casper, but I have a tremendous amount of autonomy. I get involved in whatever product lines I want to get involved in. And I hate to use these cheesy terms like advisor or support person or maybe even a consultant type of deal. That's what I do. I get involved in a wide variety of projects with the various with the various product lines. So I continue to work. I'm a workaholic by nature. I grew up with a father who was very much a workaholic, great man. He worked all the time. Very successful business guy. I learned that trade. I become very depressed. I become very anxious if I don't have a purpose every day to work and to be productive. Now, as an engineer, I would think you all are in the mode, and now I'm going to throw a little bit of opinion at you right now and try to dovetail it in and work it into what my experience has been. Let me back up a little bit here. I learned over all those years about being an engineer from the time when I left the University of Wyoming, where one of my professors said to me, "Do you know what this engineering degree has taught you to do and has trained you to do?" And I said, "No, what?" He said, "When you get out in the real world as an engineer, you will have a remote idea when you're faced with a problem as to what book you can go look in, and maybe it can help you find a solution." And that is almost a verbatim quote. The point is, The idea, you know, you've seen the 50s movies where you get design engineers and they all get sequestered over into a corner and they do one little thing. Being an engineer is being a problem solver. Very few things in your life are going to be factual. Certainly with every situation you face, there is a certain amount of fact or a certain amount of given. But you are going to become valuable and earn your pay and help you boost your career and progress through your career and climb the ladder, whatever ladder you decide to climb, as a result of your problem-solving skills and decision-making. And sometimes that decision-making isn't premised upon a solid foundation. It is premised upon what you understand are the most likely events or situations that are occurring at a particular time when you are required to solve a problem or make a recommendation or offer a solution. And sometimes you have time to make that recommendation or offer that solution, but other time you don't. You have to make a split decision. So you better understand what all of the relevant issues are before you make that decision. And I'm not trying to be dramatic here. People's well-being may be a result of your decision, physical well-being. People's financial future may be tied to that. And I'm not being dramatic. Being a drilling engineer, you're making decisions on the fly all the time. Now, a good engineer would anticipate some decision points down the road and would have already been thinking about a potential course of events that may lead to a decision that he has to make at a time. But there are going to be times when you're going to be faced with that. So you're in a very dynamic, very fluid world as an engineer, at least of the oil and gas industry. Now there's certain aspects of the oil and gas engineering that are typically don't require a decision instantly, i.e. reservoir engineering. Designing facilities. Now, a facility operation may require a split-second decision, but designing facilities doesn't. So, as you go through your career, don't think that your path is just absolutely planned for you. You have to become very adaptable, you have to become very flexible, and if you think that you can choose a path that you want to get with respect to being an engineer in the oil and gas industry, you can pursue that path under a very narrow window and with a tremendous amount of passion. But you're limiting yourself if you choose that route. I'm not against that, but you need to be flexible. Take advantages of learning the other disciplines as you get out and work with the people that you are part of your team at whatever company or organization that you're part of. You will learn as you look back that there are a few things to keep in mind. You go to work for somebody at your very first job. At that point, your reputation the clock for your reputation as an engineer starts right then. And that reputation will follow you all the way through your career. Now, it used to be hard to keep track of a guy's reputation 30 or 40 years ago, but in the world of social media and instant responses, trust me, they know what you're doing at every single moment of that day. People can find everything out about you. I'm not trying to scare you. I am educating you. And what I just said there is the most important thing I've said so far today. Your reputation starts with how you handle yourself, how you respond. Are you a know-it-all? Are you a good listener? Being a know-it-all sometimes is great. I mean, and a situation may require a know-it-all. But you need to handle yourself in a professional, credible manner with strong ethics. Because one little misstep, I'm not saying you can't recover from it. You can. But don't take your reputation for granted. Build on it as an engineer. People, and it can be done silently. Conduct your business. Get your set deadlines. Meet those time goals. Get your work done when people anticipate you getting it done. Get it done ahead of time. Under-promise and over-perform. How many times have you heard that with everything? Couldn't be more applicable to being an engineer. Don't over-promise. then it'll be like crying wolf. Oh, I'll get that report to you in 48 hours. Don't make a brash statement you can't follow through on. And there is another very, very important truth. Follow through with everything. Okay? I had to learn some of that the hard way. Any engineer who's had a long career can tell you that. Because we all make missteps. But don't think that just because someone's not talking to you that they're not judging you. They're not forming an opinion about you as an engineer. Be very credible. Be very trustworthy. Be very dependable. You know, you sit here and you say to yourself, well, all that crap or all that shh makes sense. Yeah, it does, but you don't know how many people don't do that. You're going to find all kinds of people who overpromise and underperform. And they will eventually stagnate at some point in their career. And you don't, when I say underpromise, reasonably promise and overperform. But your credibility and your reputation will always stay with you. That is who you are on a piece of paper. That is who you are when the professor talks to people about me. Okay? His impression of me. Did I follow through? Did I fulfill that? Even if he doesn't like me as a person because we have different interests, or maybe he doesn't like my personality, at least he has to say with an honest thing, he was credible, he was reliable, he was dependable, he always met his deadlines, he did good quality work, he was neat. How many engineers I know now who aren't neat? And neat is how you do a report, how you write, how you do this, and that's another thing too. If you don't have verbal skills to articulate things well, learn those. I would highly encourage you. The man in the class, you know if you have verbal skills, or the woman in the class. You know if you have good verbal communication skills. Some people are blessed with both written and verbal skills. Just because you're this numerical guru and you're some scientist, to be very good, you need those. Okay? Trust me. I can bore you to death by talking about this stuff, but I can't emphasize it. Learn how to write. Learn how to be succinct. Learn how to format. Just little simple things. Okay? You can take it upon yourself. Don't always rely upon someone to educate you. Go educate yourself on some of this stuff. So if you feel the passion coming from me, it's because it's from the learning experiences that I encountered. And that some of the things I did great, some of the other things I didn't do well. But it's very important to follow through credibility, reputation. Now I'm on my soapbox now. But it's all very important. And don't be limiting. You know, when people change careers a lot, they go out. I always believed that as long as you were learning something new, either as part of your organization or part of your job or part of your responsibility assignments, as long as you were learning something new, the organization valued you. They stuck you over in a corner and kept telling you to just go out and learn how to build locations for a drilling rig, and they limited you to that. And you saw your other peers being exposed to different things. Time for self-evaluation. Time to think about maybe what course you're. And there's nothing wrong if you find yourself, you take the first job and it doesn't maybe fit your personality, especially in today's environment. I mean, some of you guys are going to go out and you probably aren't going to be getting the job that you had anticipated 4 years ago when you started school or however long you've been. But there are ways to adapt. And there's ways to become productive. And even the guy that sweeps the floor, there are guys that really do that in a very crappy manner. There's guys that do it in a good manner. And I can't be any more simplistic about that. I wish I had someone like myself, not me, but someone like myself when I was in your situation talking to me about this. Because I had a whole different idea about what being an engineer was like. I thought that I would just have this one responsibility and I'd be doing all these calculations. It's not. You have to wear many hats. And people will learn, a couple other things here. And the professor encouraged me to talk a fair amount about this. So this isn't part of managed pressure drilling, but we will talk about that here in a bit. Is that as you go through your career, be honest with yourself. You know what your weaknesses are. So just continue to forge ahead. Pay attention to your studies. Be neat. Follow through on your work. Man, if you have that, you probably are getting all good grades. Because you can tell. Maybe now, you can probably look around this room at certain people and you can say, that guy always follows through. He's always there at the study group time. He's always this and that. Or that guy, yeah, he's smart, but he just blows everybody off. Okay? It's easy. This is kind of human behavior I'm talking about now, but it's very pertinent. I work, and let me tie this back a little bit. Why I'm so passionate about this. I work with a lot of young salespeople, product line salespeople in web. And one thing that I'm encouraging them to know, there's a couple that are engineers, but most of them aren't. And being an engineer just means you maybe have a technical ability to comprehend. I like to simplify it. But these engineers, I tell them, don't just be the guy that can answer the question, how do you make a car go faster? Because everybody who's ever been around a car driven one knows how to make it go faster. You step on the gas. But think to yourself now, how many people can actually tell you why the car's going faster? That's part of being an engineer. You don't have to be a super genius scientist that can tell you every moving feature of an internal combustion engine. But you better know why that car's going faster, how it's going faster, not just what. So I tell these guys with these product lines, learn your product. Become an advocate. Become a knowledgeable source for your customer. When you work for a company, your customer is your employer. Somebody who's paying you to be productive, bring something to the table. Enough for the psychology lecture. So I've had a varied career. I've gotten to do lots of things. Some of them have been routine, some of them have been highly variable. The best job, when you go back and you ask yourself, what was the best job you had? Probably the funnest job I had was back in Washington, D.C. It was a tremendous amount of flexibility, tremendous amount of autonomy, ability to generate your own thoughts. The most rewarding and most enriching job I ever had, and it wasn't just because I worked there for 27 years, I was working for the True family, for True Companies. And why was that? Because they had a drilling company, still do. They've been in business for 65 years. Tremendous drilling fleet. Belfouche Pipe, they're the third largest crude oil pipeline company in the U.S. Black Hills Trucking, tool pusher supply, True Oil, the geothermal business, everything. I got exposed to all that, so it's a very enriching environment. I was very privileged and very honored to have them. They're out with the guys, worked great for a year and a half, and it didn't work after that. So let's talk a little bit about management. Are there any questions? Not necessarily if you want to ask me about my career or what do I advocate, what type of jobs do you guys? How many, is it fair to ask, how many are juniors or seniors? Or all of you juniors or seniors? Yeah. How many are seniors? How many will be finishing in May? Okay. Does everybody have a job? Good. Good. Excellent. That just gives me a little bit of a profile. Let's talk about drilling here for a little bit. We've seen the drilling industry. I have till
10:45.
45. Okay, I think we're kind of on track.
Sure.
Kind of on track. Okay. Like I said, I have always advocated this. Let's talk about how the drilling, just even here in the last 5, let's just say from 2008 or 9 or 10, as a starting point to where we are And help me if I'm wrong, some of you guys have worked in North Dakota before, or wherever, I mean, a little bit, okay. And I'm not gonna quote statistics, but I'm gonna say, oh, and by the way, my son is 31 years old, been in the directional business 10 years, left school when he was a senior in college at the University of Wyoming. Good grades, but he wanted to go make a bunch of money, he did. Well, now he's been furloughed. He actually climbed the ladder a little bit within his company, but he's furloughed, now he's gonna go back and his share. So, the point is, there's always an avenue. And being an engineer, this leads me to one other point. Being an engineer gives you tremendous flexibility. I have friends who are doctors now, MDs, who were originally engineers. I have lawyer friends who were originally engineers. Not in school, got their degrees. Okay? And like, why? My son is very much against, and the reason I tell you this, I'm trying to emphasize what an engineering degree does for you. It gives you flexibility. You could always go work anywhere you want. And I'm not being demeaning, but you can go to work for some of the big discount stores if you're an engineer, or you can go be an engineer. But if you go get a plain old college degree, which used to be the answer all to everything 20 and 30 and 40 years ago, you'll be lucky to work for that discount store, but you can never be an engineer. Well, you can do anything you want to do after this degree. So you make great choices by pursuing this. And some of it was a no-brainer for some of you to choose it. If it was a tough decision for those of you who chose this, you made the right decision. That isn't because I'm an engineer. Okay? Let's talk about drilling. The Bakken has gone from the industry. Let's talk about the industry. It used to be called the E&P industry, the exploration production industry, right? Well, now the stages of development in the oil and gas business per se were exploration. You go out and you find something. Then you develop that field, and then maybe after you've got some production history and understood the behaviors and start to define the field a little bit, you try to exploit it, you try to expand it, you try to improve the recovery from that field. Someone just recently said the E&P business is no longer the exploration and production business, it is now the exploitation and production business. Why is that important? With exploration, you have a tremendous amount of risk. It used to be that the success rate when you go out and drill wildcat wells and find a field is maybe 1 out of 10. Well, now, the consequence or the risk of drilling a non-productive well for at least 90% of the industry, and by that I mean 90% of the oil and gas industry here in the U.S., and I'm not talking offshore, I'm talking just domestically, is tied up in the Bakken, in the DJ Basin, the Bakken Shale, the Niobrara Quidel, down in north central, northeastern Colorado, the big Permian developments down in West Texas, the Eagle Ford development down near San Antonio, the Utica Shale in Ohio, the Marcellus Shale back east, the Powder River Basin with multiple horizons, okay? These are all, the reservoir risk is essentially gone. Very, very little. If you're gonna drill a well and not find enough oil and gas hydrocarbons to make a commercial well. Now, the payout period has certainly gone from a few months on certain wells up in the Bakken. Now we're talking maybe 2 or 3 years. Because as you know, if you're making 100 barrels a well, 100 barrels a day, and oil is $100 a barrel, that's 10 to the 4th, that's $10,000 right? A day. Gross. And this isn't an engineering economics thing, but you all know, have you all been through oil and gas economics? Okay, so you know that on top of that, you've got production taxes, and you got lease operating expenses, and you got that. So by the time you all filter this down, if a company makes 10,000 barrels, or $10,000 a day on oil and gas production, maybe they're getting back to the working interest, maybe $5,000. And it varies depending on the terms of the leases. But let's just take just a quick tangent here, and then we'll get into the slides. But the industry has changed. So we're into this full-scale development. So what are we? We're in assembly line right now. We drill well after well after well after well, and pretty much they're a repeat. And I'm not hammering the business. It's a very efficient business we're in. but it's different than what it used to be. We've gone from drilling times, and this is the lead into this. Our drilling times have gone from 40 days up at the Bakken, and now we're down 10,000 vertically, horizontally, let's just say a 1280 lateral, 1280 for 2 sections, 10,000 foot lateral for 20,000 foot measured depth. We're 15, 16 days, something like that. That's a testament to the industry, just like the industry was with the enhanced gas recovery movement with resource plays and hydrocarbons. So the industry has responded. So what they did, the industry has responded to the cost side of the equation. We have a revenue side of the equation, we have a cost side of the equation for oil and gas economics. So the industry has made all these technological improvements. And down in the DJ Basin, we've gone from 22 days for 7,000 vertical and 10,000 lateral. We're down to 6.5 days spud to spud. And as I told the professor this morning, the closer you get to 0 days, the amount of improvement you can just basically becomes non-existent or gets very small. Steel's only so strong. Cement takes so much time to set. You can theoretically, technically you can only pump fluid so fast. So the industry has responded and made tremendous advancements, and some of them, bit technology, directional, fluid systems. I mean, it continues to get better. Okay? So there's plenty of opportunity. What I'm trying to do here is subtly encourage you that just because we're in a downturn now, don't think that there isn't going to be opportunity. Now, I will tell you, this isn't a downer, but I will tell you right now, as a result of what we just talked about, of drilling efficiencies, that I don't think you're ever going to see the rig activity domestically at the same level, anywhere close. And it's because of drilling efficiencies, multi-well pads. Right? It's going to take less rigs and less people to accomplish it. So now you're going to be part of a smaller group of people, which is good. Okay. And we can talk a little bit more about that. But is there some charm here? I just want you to think about this while I write. Drilling rig. Okay, drill rig, fluid system, drill bits, drill plan. It's kind of a misnomer, but I'm going to use it, and others. Okay, here's my question. I want you to think, which one of those, if you owned a company, and if you could rate these as which one is the most important aspect of your upcoming drilling operation, the one that is the most critical to you drilling a successful, cost-efficient, mechanically effective, safe operation. Okay. Who thinks, so if I'm going to prioritize these, with one being the most important down here to, what, 5? This is my question, other professors. I asked this in very group. So who believes drilling rig is the most important component to drilling a cost-effective, time-efficient level? Go ahead, raise your hand. Come on, we're all good. Okay, so I see a hands, 2 or 3. Who thinks fluid system is the most important component? Okay, I got 1. I think we had 3 here. We got 1 to 2. I can't remember if there was another. How many think drill bit is the most important? 0. Okay. How many think drill plan is the most important? Okay. You guys are just too smart for me. But you're not necessarily right yet. So drill plan is overwhelming and other nobody. What aspect of the drill plan? Because drill bits are part of the drill plan, fluid systems are part of the drill plan, drill legs part weather is part of this. But out of all of the components in the drill plan, what is the most important substantive operation or component of a drilling operation that allows you to drill wells safely, cost effectively, in a more timely manner, as well as maintaining the integrity of the well you're drilling as well as the overall operation? Pardon? Organization's good? People dependent's good? Okay. Let me ask another question. If I have a brand new drilling rig, it's generation. What are drilling rigs now? Are we in Flex 4 now? Flex 5? Okay, Flex 5. And that's happened over the last 5 years, coincidentally, or something like that? I mean, the rigs are great, you know, some of them, we have a little bit of robotic operation in here. So I can have, here's what I will offer to you. I can have the best drilling rig. I can have the best drill pipe. I can have the best directional equipment. I can have the best bit on the end. I can have the smartest engineers running this operation. And if there's one component that's lousy, poorly designed, it can cause me to lose this well. It can cause a blowout. It can cause tremendous physical harm. It can waste all kinds of money. And that's because I did a lousy job designing something that I wrote up there. There you go. Who answered that? And no, you're right. And you all were right when you said drill plan. But I can have the best drilling rig out there. I can have the best people. And if I have a lousy fluid system, I'm not going to make any progress. It's going to take me all kinds of time. Because what does the fluid system do for you? There's about 4 or 5 things. What does the fluid system, your drilling mud, whatever, how you're using your fluid system, what does that do to the well? One, it maintains hole integrity, right? Keeps the well. What else does the fluid system allow you to do? It cleans it, allows cuttings to get to the surface. What else does a column of fluid in the wellbore do for you?
Well control.
There you go, well control, because it creates what? Hydrostatic, right? Down there. Okay. So when we lose circulation, we void the well, and now we have nothing potentially. We lose circulation completely, where we get a joint break, or we go into a pressure system or whatever, and we vacate even a part of that fluid column. We potentially move ourselves from being in a balanced state or into an overbalanced state into a state called underbalance, right? So fluid system is, I would argue that, and I'm not trying to argue with you, it is the most important component. I can have a lousy drilling rig. I have a good fluid system. I'll eventually get the well drilled. It may not necessarily be safe, but I'll get the well drilled. Because the fluid system is what is so critical. It gets the cuttings out, it lubricates the bit, it does a lot of things. I mean, it gives you directional control, because you can go through, if you guys studied, have they studied, mud pulse type stuff?
A little bit.
A little bit. So you understand that the fluid system can communicate, allows you to communicate, right? Okay. All right. Well, when we drill wells, the old way used to be that we drilled wells in what we call a balanced or overbalanced state. And the reason we wanted our hydrostatic pressure to be greater than the reservoir pressure because we didn't want a blowout. And now, because of needs to improve drilling times, because when we improve drilling times, we reduce drilling times, it saves us lots and lots of money. And in order to accomplish that, sometimes we have to drill with a fluid system that maybe is underbalanced, because underbalanced lighter fluids typically will allow you to drill at a much faster rate If we're underbalanced, we don't have well control. It's just not naturally occurring, so we have to create well control by putting it, you might say, into a contained system, or we have to have a way to be able to affect our drilling fluid system, maybe without necessarily always changing the properties of that fluid system. So it used to be in the olden days that we were dealing with a drilling fluid of, let's say, 9.5. And we knew that the XYZ formation at depth 8,000 feet was going to be overpressured, and it was going to require a 10-2 hydrostatic, density fluid, and the associated hydrostatic to control that event. Then we would have to weight up our mud. But weighting up our mud, even though we did try to make it more precise, there was still a human element to it by adding weighting material. And we would try to raise that weight not instantly, we try to raise that weight progressively over a little bit of time, because you didn't want to slug the fluid by all of a sudden going from 9.5 and dumping a bunch of weight material and having a real heavy section of fluid that ultimately might cause you to lose circulation and would overcome the fracture gradient of a formation you're drilling into. So this is kind of all a precursor to how managed pressure drilling evolved. I'll start through the slides now. Any questions about anything that we say? Well, a couple other things. The professor said this morning that you guys have a reasonable understanding of equivalent circulating density. Okay, so it's hydrostatic plus friction, and it's a dynamic type of measurement, right? Okay. Okay, I will read some slides, but then I'll just go through this. Secure drilling techniques, that's capitalized, don't pay any attention to that. But today we're just going to be talking about underbalance and managed pressure drilling. This is called SDS, refers to a product line in Weatherford. But this is called our drilling wheel. We have underbalance drilling, we have managed pressure drilling, and we have air drilling. Now when you drill with air creates as a drilling medium, there's some benefits to utilizing air, but it can't be used in all applications. But one thing air does is it gives you tremendous rates of penetration. Okay. But one thing air doesn't do is what we talked about with what a drilling fluid system does. Air doesn't have any hydrostatic component to it, in essence, right? As compared to fluid. So without that hydrostatic component, in terms of well control, or in terms of hole integrity, air doesn't give me that option, does it? So I have to be utilizing air to drill through rock formations that are competent, that aren't going to be sloughing in. And oftentimes air can be used in a variety of fashions. The air can be introduced into the fluid column to aerate that fluid, to reduce the hydrostatic. There's popular drilling techniques where people will attach an injection string to the side of the casing string, and they'll pump air down so that as your fluid comes up at the bottom of an intermediate casing, air gets interjected into the return fluid at that time, because it lightens the hydrostatic, because you're trying to manage what the hydrostatic is at the bottom. So people get creative with air, and you can even use nitrogen too. Nitrogen has a tendency to be a lot more expensive. So the three different type of underbalanced, and as we approach managed pressure drilling considerations, are air drilling. Then we go into underbalanced drilling, where we're drilling with a hydrostatic less than formation pressure. We'll talk about that. And then we'll get into what we call managed pressure drilling. Performance air drilling, we just talked about that. Bottom hole pressure is as low as possible to increase drilling performance. The objective of air drilling is to reduce the drilling cost by drilling faster, ROP. Performance air drilling. Air drilling is the formation pressure is greater than our bottom hole pressure exerted by the column air. So we have our hydrostatic, which in essence is very, very little. But air drilling isn't necessarily pure air. It's oftentimes there'll be a very light foam or a mist attached to it. But one thing air can't do is once you start getting into water-bearing formations, then you have to switch to a fluid system. Plus your pump pressure at the surface. So hard rock, air drilling is applicable to hard rock. Oftentimes you'll see where you get volcanics at the surface and you have to drill through that. A lot of times people use air drilling to go through and drill their surface holes. Once again, when I just talked about air mist, it reduces cost by increasing rate of penetration. Underbalance drilling. So everybody has a vision now of what underbalance drilling is. So if I'm drilling under balance, the reservoir is continually adding in while I'm drilling. It's adding into the return stream. Okay, so as I come to the surface now, with a combined stream of either water or potential hydrocarbons, I have to run that return stream, which is all enclosed. I have to run it into a separator, and I have to separate oils and a certain amount of water and gas, and try to get my drilling fluid system back to what its original downhole condition was. But I'm drilling under balance because of what? Why would I want to drill under balance? Because do I not want to see what the reservoir is giving me? Could that be a potential benefit? I also don't want to create a bunch of invasion, to create a bunch of wellbore damage. So there's benefits to underbalance drilling for that reason. Obviously we get, because the concept generally is a positive correlation. The lighter your drilling fluid, the higher your rate of penetration. Can anybody think of anything else being about underbalance? Why would you?
Well circulation.
Pardon me? Oh, there's an excellent answer. Lost circulation considerations. That's good, because rarely are we in a world where you go down, sometimes in certain areas, you can almost sleep while you drill. The rocks are friendly, you don't have, I'm just gonna call it weak and S, and weak and S. Weak formations, strong formations, weak formations, strong formations, weak formations. As you go through this, when you get into a scenario like that, where you have different frac gradients, and you go through this, and some of these may be hydrocarbon bearing, some maybe not. But if you get in a situation like that, I'm going to have a hard time managing my fluid system and maintain well control, right? So if I can maintain hole integrity and drill with a fluid that can accept influx and still be below the frac gradient, because the last thing I want to do is frac the formation when I'm drilling, because that creates all kinds of problems down the road. So if I drill with a light enough fluid that can maintain hole integrity and have the ability to increase my rate of penetration, but yet not worry about lost circulation because my hydrostatic isn't going to exceed these weak formations, I just have to have some stuff up here at the surface to contain this return stream. And by that means it's an enclosed system. So, any question about that? That gives you an option for drilling under balance. Now, not all wells can be drilled under balance, mainly because once you start getting under balance, you generally will start having swelling in your formations from clays, or you might get into an overpressured situation where your hole will actually start kind of exploding into the wellbore, and you get tremendous hole diameter, hole caliper type inconsistency. So underbalance has its benefits, and it can be used very effectively. So underbalance drilling is where our reservoir pressure is greater than our bottom hole pressure, which is hydrostatic plus friction plus the surface. So those three components are all less than the bottom hole. Underbalance drilling is the same thing. Productivity index driven, that's what PI means. So we want to, because if we don't have near wellbore damage, there's some people who believe that you decide what kind of well you want in the end before you drill it. And then you design your drilling program to match what your expectation is as to how you want to produce the well. So sometimes drilling fluids can mask hydrocarbons coming in from a formation. Technology now in terms of downhole evaluation through logging techniques and different tools has oftentimes mitigated most of that. But it's definitely an application that you want when you want to try and see what the formation has the ability to bring back to you. Drilling with bottom pressure designed to maintain low reservoir pressure to invite fluid influx, increase reservoir productivity, and maximize NPV by reducing formation damage and enhancing reservoir characterization. That's what we just talked about. I just said it in different terms. Underbalance versus conventional. Overbalanced drilling. So when we're overbalanced, where our hydrostatic exceeds the reservoir pressure, but yet not necessarily exceeds the frac gradient, we get filtrate invasion. Some producing zones are hidden. We have potential loss circulation like this gentleman addressed. And then the other thing is we get differential sticking. You guys know what differential sticking is? That's where your pipe gets sucked over to the side of the hole. It's just the differential pressure, shove your pipe over there. It's like having a galosh on as a kid, and you step into a lead puddle and you can pull them. You're kind of stuck there because of surface tension type issues. Underbalanced drilling. We see all the production from the zones. There's no or limited filtrate invasion. Typically, you don't have loss circulation and you don't have differential sticking. So here we go, advantages. You might, your professor told me he probably didn't ask me 3 or 4 questions about this. He didn't tell me this one, but this is a classic question here, so I don't think you have to necessarily know all these, but this is something you want to think about. Reservoir characterization, improved bit life, reduced stimulation. Why would that be an advantage of underbalanced drilling? Because I don't have what to overcome. Because I haven't got filtrate invasion. I don't have near wellbore damage or what do you guys call it? Skin to overcome. So sometimes underbalanced drilling, there have been documented cases where underbalanced drilling will either minimize, may eliminate the need for stimulation. But people now, with the new frac technology, people want to frac out because, fracking is, my God, is talking about, the one aspect that has certainly changed the oil and gas industry. But these are all very, very good points, and I think you guys have an understanding of this. There's a couple other things, disadvantages. You can make the argument that when you're overbalanced or you have too heavy a fluid in there, you can have increased torque and drag. And what does increased torque and drag do? It has the ability to compromise what? Your drill string, right? It can destroy the performance characteristics of a drill string over time. Torque and drag can. Well, what does it improve the bit life? With underbalance? Yeah. It's because your rate of penetration is so fast, okay, that oftentimes when you get into real heavy mud and you're not making a lot of penetration, your bit will just start turning and it'll just start wearing itself in a lot more, you might say a lot more detrimental environment than if you have a real light fluid there and you're able to have the reservoir pressure help you get the cuttings out of the well. Okay. Candidate, here, this is actually kind of interesting. Will benefit from underbalance. Now, you're going to say, well, how is this tied to managed pressure drilling? We'll get into it. Because in essence, managed pressure drilling, I will tell you, is underbalanced drilling, but it's in a controlled environment. Okay? Managed pressure drilling. Let's talk about what managed pressure drilling is. It's a technique which will mitigate the risk and costs associated with drilling wells within a narrowed down hole environmental limit by proactively managing the annual hydraulic pressure profile. It will avoid influx of formation fluids at the surface, and any flow incidental to the operation will be safely contained. Okay, you all understand what a drilling window is. Okay, we have pore pressure, which is reservoir pressure, right, in essence, for simple things. Fracture gradient. So when we have a very tight window there, if I have a drilling mud that exceeds the pore pressure, what's the consequence? Or excuse me, if I have a drilling mud that exceeds the fracture gradient, what's the consequence? Your fracture, but what also happens, where's your fluid go? You lose circulation, right? When you frac a formation, you get out, you have the potential, you destroy your whole integrity, and you have the potential to lose circulation. When you lose circulation, you lose the ability to maintain your whole integrity, you lose well-controlled options. So we don't ever want to frac our formation while we're drilling. So in conventional drilling, bottom hole circulating pressure is hydrostatic plus our friction pressure. Managed pressure drilling is hydrostatic plus our friction pressure plus we're going to choke down the backside. On our return side, we're going to either open that choke or we're going to close it. If we open the choke, if we have X fluid in there and we're pumping with an equivalent circulating density of 11, and I know that from my drill plan and from other wells in the area that I'm now going to encounter an overpressured formation. The old way, I would have had to have done what? I would have had to weight up the mud, right? Now, unless I had set casing strings to protect these weak formations, this is one thing that managed pressure drilling does for you. It allows you to drill with a lighter fluid, but it allows you to affect the bottom hole equivalent circulating density by choking off, having the ability to either open or close the flow area that return fluids go through. So if I'm drilling with an 11-0 fluid and I'm going to come into an overpressure zone, for me to increase the pressure at the bottom of the hole, i.e. to affect that fluid system without changing the properties of that fluid system, and would I open the choke or would I close the choke? Not totally close, would I restrict, would I dial the choke down, make a smaller return area, or would I open it up? Just think of a hose. Think of a hose if I have a nozzle that has a hole on it in this big. If I put a new nozzle that has a hole on it only that big, is the pressure inside that hose larger or smaller than what it was? Pardon? Larger. So my equivalent circulating density becomes larger as I choke down the return flow path. Make sense? And it's equivalent circulating density that's important to drilling engineers. Hydrostat, the properties, the density of your drilling fluid is important, don't get me wrong. But it's equivalent circulating density, because that's what is coming out of the bit. That's what the formation is saying. You're fooling the formation. You're telling the formation saying, oh, you changed the mud properties. You say, no, I just changed something mechanically that affected the equivalent circulating density at the bottom of the well. So what's the big benefit there? Can you see that managed pressure drilling can save you lots of money because now you don't have to be yo-yoing your drilling fluid up and down? Can it save you lots of money because you don't lose circulation and you got to build up new mud volume to replace what you've lost? And associated trucking charges with hauling the base fluid in, like the water, to build that new volume. So managed pressure drilling has lots of benefits. Now, that choke, and we'll get into this, and that's why I said my presentations are never canned. That choke can be operated manually, and we call it manual managed pressure drilling. We call it bloke on a choke. Okay.
And when you get into a known field that you know that you have a profile of all the formations that you're gonna drill through because you're drilling these development wells, one right after another, you're gonna become good at it manually. You're gonna know when you get to the top of the XYZ or the ABC formation, you're gonna know how your fluid's gonna behave, and you can manually handle managed pressure drilling. So you understand it is just on our return line, we come up here to the surface, all we do is we just put a choke up there. Or it can be done automatically with a flow sensor. Now, managed pressure drilling, and we'll get into that here in a second. Managed pressure drilling is so important because, in a way, people view managed pressure drilling as well controlled. Because when you use an automatic system, it is sensing it's gauging. How many times have you heard drilling people say, oh, we're getting a kick. The pits, we've got a gain in the pits. Or our pit level is dropping. If our pit level is dropping, what's happening down below? We're losing fluid. If we're gaining fluid, what's happening? Yeah, we're taking a kick, or we're getting an influx, right, of some type. Okay. We actually, when I say we, this is the one pitch. We have a system that is automatically driven by a flow meter. It's a very sophisticated flow meter. We can measure gains and flows based off of the ins and outs. We know how much we're shoving down hole. We know how much we're getting back. Okay? We can actually see that flow difference at the gallon level. So once all of a sudden a little alarm goes off and we're seeing a gallon more coming back to us than what we're pumping down hole, it alerts us that, oh, we might be taking a kick. Or if all of a sudden we start seeing less coming back than what we're putting down hole, oh, we're starting to lose fluid. In our choke, we can adjust that flow meter to dial in the operation of the choke. So if we start losing fluid in a managed pressure drilling environment, do we want to, if we start losing fluid, do we want to increase our ACD or decrease it? Decrease it. So what do we do with the choke to decrease the back pressure? Closing the choke increases the back pressure. Opening the choke decreases the back pressure, so our choke automatically opens. So as a point of how can I shorten this real quick? As a point of summary here, the cost associated with managed pressure drilling, maintaining the integrity of your fluid system, maintaining your volumes, it's very simple. Managed pressure drilling is just putting a choke on the return side, and it allows you to affect the equivalent circulating density of the hole without changing the properties of the fluid. That is the most important concept you want that. So we don't have to change our fluid system. Let's go through these. There's a few more. Very narrow, difficult, or impossible to drill conventionally. Now your professor's going to like this because in here there's a slide that says over 50% of the drilling opportunities offshore are considered to be managed pressure drilling applications. What does managed pressure drilling allow you to do? It eliminates excessive casing strains. It can handle kick loss scenarios. It can minimize your mud costs. Excessive drilling, MPD is non-productive time. That just means that you've got a problem out there and you're not turning to the right, you're not making holes. It prevents a well control or environmental issue. Failure to reach TD with large enough hole, meaning you have to run, see, managed pressure drilling now, I don't have to run a whole bunch of casing strings necessarily. Allows faster corrective action to deal with observed pressure variations. Containment concept allows drilling what might otherwise have been economically unattainable. What does that mean? It just means that because I have all these types of lithology that have different fracture gradients, I can minimize the number of casing strings. Managed pressure drilling allows me to drill with an underbalanced fluid because it increases my rate of penetration. I'm throwing a lot at you. But does everybody feel serious? Do you kind of understand what we're talking about here now, about what we're trying to accomplish by managed pressure drilling? And by managed, it means we're on top of it, and controlling it. Pressure, we're talking about the back pressure that we're adding to the return system. Okay, and how are we adding or taking that pressure away? Not by, we're doing it by either opening or closing the flow area that the return fluids pass through. Maybe accomplished means including back pressure, variable fluid density, fluid rheology, oil geometry. Managed pressure drilling is the reservoir equals the bottom hole equals hydrostatic friction or surface. Now, this is saying that we're drilling at neutral. When someone tells you we're drilling at neutral, what does that mean? It means our hydrostatic equals what? Our pore pressure, right? So we're not losing fluid, we're not gaining fluid. Managed pressure drilling is drillability driven. Okay. Optimize the drilling process by decreasing NPD and mitigating drilling hazards. NPD technology. This demands technology that effectively handles perennial drilling issues. 50% of offshore drilling prospects are currently undrillable. High NPD drilling costs exceed AFE, aero pore pressure, and fracture pressure marking, ever increasing water depth. So here's my point. How does this relate back to the drilling window, and then I'll close with this. If I have a big drilling window, I don't have to worry about exceeding, I don't have a high pore pressure, and I don't have a low frac gradient, so I've got a big window that I can operate safely, maintain hole control, probably drill with a fluid very economically. Oh, the NPD system, by the way, and we can show some more if you'll come to these Q&A sessions. They're just too much. Seriously, there's 140 slides. But it was about $15,000 a day for this equipment, for this automated NPD system. Now it's down to about $8,000 a day. If you get a choke with an operator for the choke, you probably get a choke for a couple $1,000 a day, $1,500 a day. It used to be, a few years ago, it was probably $3,500 to $4,000 a day to just manually run the choke. So ideally, if you went into an area that you weren't sure as to how your well is going to behave, you could put in an automated MPD system over time. You could get to the point where you can do it manually after understanding how manually it goes. There's just way too much information on it, and I apologize. I hope I communicated, what MPD. So we just go from conventional drilling in a big window. Understand what the window is, right? Okay. So we don't have to worry about exceeding frac gradient or having the reservoir cutting ass. Okay. So now we get down to where we can operate in a really tight window, or we have a varying window. So your window isn't going to be just like this. It may come together as a result of the various formations that you come across. But one thing MPD does, it can eliminate a lot of very costly casing strings that you otherwise wouldn't have to have. Okay. So I'll be around if you want to talk more about it.
Before you guys go, if you guys are interested in taking my 501 class, which is listed again as advanced drilling design, which I'm going to teach is drilling fluids. If you're an undergraduate, which most of you all are, you will have to come get an ad drop form and have me sign it, and I will sign that for all of you guys. And in addition, Dave Reichardt's class, I think it was res characteristics, he moved it back a half hour just so there's no more conflict there. So
I'll give you this presentation.
I'll put Frank's slides up.
I'll put you all on